Welcome to We Took the Quest, a podcast about tabletop role-playing games and our experiences with them. I'm your co-quest master, Charles Woody.
And I'm your co-quest master, Stephen Panilla.
And today we'd like to welcome you to our first ever side quest episode.
Woody, what the heck is a side quest episode?
Stephen, you inquisitive fellow, I'm glad you asked. A side quest episode is an episode where we will expand more on a game that we've covered previously by covering modules or adventures from that game, supplements, or any other popular media from that game. So what you're about to hear today, you incredible tabletop role-playing game enthusiasts, are 3 Mothership modules that Stephen and I have played, experienced, and game mastered, and we wanted to talk more about them. So we're going to talk about Decagone. We're going to talk about Warped Beyond Recognition and Arkyvr. These are all supplements and modules that can be played with the base game Mothership by Tuesday Night Games. Today, we have ourselves another side quest, a sci-fi side quest, if you will. Today, we will be reviewing the Mothership module called Decagone, written by Waco M with art done by Bodhi H, editing done by Joanna X. ACS. I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. So, what is Decagone? This is the description that you can get from the drive-thru RPG page for Decagone. Upon arriving for their first day on the job in a deep ocean research facility, it becomes apparent that the crew are caught in a uniquely horrifying situation. They've become trapped inside a time loop, along with a number of rather peculiar and dangerous experiments. Every 10 minutes, the crew finds themselves back in the elevator they arrived in, unable to escape, and no time to call for help. How long until they've looped one too many times for their mind to handle? Stephen, how did your mind handle this module?
Not well. In a classic time loop situation, the main character always gets frustrated with what's going on. And every time they do something, it resets. I mean, that's just a trope.
It's me clocking in for work every day.
Ugh.
They can't keep getting away with this.
Oh my God.
We did specifically play Decagone. This is in an ongoing campaign of Arkyvr, which is a different type of module that we're playing with Mothership. We may talk a little bit about Arkyvr, but we will not be going deep inside of it. And another thing to note as well, we played this online. The experience that we will be talking about today was all experienced through Roll20. So that may differ like how we feel about it. We'll talk about how this could feel playing at the table as well. All right. I think my favorite thing out of this is the art by Bodhi H is awesome. I just love it's cartoony, but it's cartoony in the way that companies use that generic stick figure arts when they're rebranding or announcing something new. But in a video gamey sense, it all just comes together. So I really love the art.
It had the same vibe as Bob's Burgers in Adventure Time.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very choice style.
I will say that Bodhi also has a website called slowquest.com, and they do adventures for other games as well. They have a pretty extensive 5e adventure packet, and it's all done with similar art, which seems really cool. They have a 5e adventure called The Goblings. Pretty sick. Highly recommend you check out slowquest.com. Look at all the arts that they have there. They only have the one Mothership module under their repertoire, so maybe they'll do some art for some future adventures for Mothership as well.
The thing that stood out to me with this module is pretty straightforward. We knew what we had to do, or rather, it's obvious what needs to be done for the module. And then each page is small description of the room, what happens if someone interacts with something else, and that's pretty much it. It's very friendly in terms of not too meaty where your eyes would glaze over, but enough to give to the players to play with.
Even though it is a time loop, it is a very linear design. And what I really appreciate, and this will kind of go into the layout, almost every room has like a little photo of it so you can see how the room looks. They have a map overview, which is fantastic. When you buy this online, you get like 4 different versions of the map, which is really sick. So you can use a unlabeled one, like in an online situation. That's what I did. Worked very well. There's also a label one too. You get tokens as well. So there's like little tokens for the scientists or for the people that are running the module. You can give them a Bodhi H styled token, which is really sick.
Cool.
Yeah, the layout is great. The descriptions are good. This is a great example how you do more with less. It's 19 pages in total, and I believe that's not including the front and back cover. They did a great job of doing a lot with less.
And there is a lot in here to play with.
Well, Steven, let's talk about the playing. What was the player experience? We can go ahead and say like, hey, this is spoilers. You already know that this is a time loop, but let's talk about the specific things that happen within the time loop. Tell me, what was it like for you to play Decagone?
It was just replaying Groundhog Day. The movie is very reminiscent of that. The top of the module, there's a point where they say they're in a time loop and to not skip things that the players have completed, which is an interesting choice because in those Groundhog Day movies, they skip a lot of the stuff so you're not seeing the same thing over and over. But we got to a point where we needed to get this thing moving. If we had our way, there would be every inch of the rooms being explored, but then we realized, oh, the time's being eaten away.
Yes, and I understand why they're like, hey, don't have them skip through. It's because it's to make you feel that real frustration of like doing the same thing over and over again, which I love. I know some people will be driven crazy by. When I was reading reviews on people playing this or people giving advice, a lot of them were like, yeah, you can just skip through the stuff that they've already done. So I think it was like after the third time, most people were like, yeah, just let them completely through it. I think I had y'all do at least everything almost twice. But then once we got to the third time, I was like, all right, let's move this along.
It is a escape room situation where you're kind of testing things as the player. There was enough description to understand, okay, this is the thing we probably should be interacting with. Then it was left up to the dice roll if we succeeded or not. But in terms of the player side of things, it was very cool to live in the time loop situation. And it is very linear despite that fact.
How did you feel when I sent the YouTube link to the 10-minute timer?
My initial thought was, there's no way that we started all of this at the same time.
Yeah. I was looking for like universal countdown timer or whatever, and I couldn't find a quick one to use that like made sense, or everyone was like, yeah, this does the exact thing that I want. So I was like, I'll just be the timekeeper.
I wonder if Roll20 has a timer thing. You know, I don't know.
That's a really good question. I wish I'd thought of that.
It would be something obvious that they would have, but I'm not sure if there is. Big missed opportunity.
With a quick Google search, at least the AI overview says, yes, Roll20 has a built-in timer functionality.
Woo!
Yeah. Well, for you future Decagoners, now you know.
Yeah, wow. I like just thought of that. I didn't even realize until the very second that might be a thing.
When genius strikes, genius can never be planned for, Steven. Genius is experience, and you're selected for it.
Sure.
So you love the linearness. You were entertained by the time loop because you messaged me after this and you were like, I never want to do this again.
The thing is, with a time loop, you know, Bill Murray was soulless by the 10th redo. And although that might be entertaining to watch and see someone being put through the ringer like that, living it is exhausting to the brain, and it's conceptually always interesting to watch someone else go through it. But to live it, you really take on that stress that is unnecessary. But the main reason that it affected me in that way, doing a time loop online was more graining, because you get to see your characters get transported back to the beginning, and you see, oh, we're restarting this. We got to move the players again. It would have been a lot more easier for the player, I think, in person. But that's just me, because then we could just conceptualize, all right, we're just back at the elevator, go on, instead of having to move everything. It didn't vibe with me for online.
It's always fun to watch someone else go through the pressure cooker. So you're telling me you didn't have a big smile on your face when I would just be like, 5 minutes, 30 seconds?
No. Actually,
2 minutes,
I think
20 seconds, Steven.
I think it was a big frown face. It was like the emoji where my face was red and the steam was coming out of my ears. So it was kind of like something like that.
Well, you hit it well. I did not. I know there were some moments where you were like, oh, come on. But at least you get the steam in check. So that's good.
Yeah.
With that in mind, how did you feel about the tone of like the research facility? and what was needed to be done there for the mission?
It was pretty inviting. It's a big playground. Although our players didn't know what was going on, there was only 5 people in the entire facility. Tonally, it's eerie enough. At the same time, tons of stuff to interact with.
Did you feel like you were playing Mothership?
Yeah, definitely.
Heck yeah. Favorite room, favorite moment from the session?
I think my favorite room was the teleporter room, because at first we didn't realize it was the teleporter room. But then when we looked into it and decided to use it, it was horrifying.
Yeah, horrifying in the sense that, so the teleporter is connected to what they call a 4D printer, so 4 Delta printer. You put something on it, it gets sliced into billion cubes and then sucked through a tube, and that thing is reprinted out on the 4D printer. The crazy thing is, when you read the description of the 4D printer, it's a copy of that person. The original is destroyed.
Which is, whew, I'm glad none of us went through it.
Yeah.
But it would have been an interesting RP moment.
100%. Oh yeah, you got to reinvent your character now.
Yeah.
On the fly. Good luck. Okay. Any other notes from the player experience, Steven?
Don't be afraid to interact with as much as possible, but that's part of any player experience. Push the red button if you see it.
Yeah, that's Mothership in general. Do the generic horror movie thing. From a GM experience, running this was awesome. This was super easy. Waco really sets you up for success. Like I said, they're doing a lot with so little. Bodhi also sets you up for success with just the drawings for each of the rooms. I asked this for my anniversary, just like for an anniversary present. I was like, oh, give me this new Mothership module. I got it from Boom. Had it for a few months, and I knew like whenever we get back to Mothership, I wanted to run this again. And it was so easy. It does what every game master, warden, dungeon master wants. It sets the table for y'all to play, and then I just get to come in and say a couple of things, which is great. I watch y'all poke the buttons and tell you what happens. I love time loop stuff. This is the second time I've run like a time loop thing, but this is the first ever like module time loop that was ran. I made it super simple, 10-minute timer, which is great. I, once again, am that kind of sicko that loves the experience of like the frustration or the immersion, like, oh, wow, I actually feel like I'm going through this hellscape of a loop again. There's these security dogs that are on the loose that can deal some really big old damage, and you can deactivate them by saying Remus. And it was just funny because he always drops out around the 8-minute mark, and he dropped out of that air vent like 10 or 12 times. I just loved y'all being like, Remus, Remus, and you would just change the inflection depending on when, like, which loop it was. That was really a joy for me.
I'm glad that was a joy to you.
I'm glad you had fun with my misery. From a Game Master's experience, this is good. If you were going to be running Mothership for the first time, this would probably be the module that I would recommend for someone. I would definitely choose running this in person versus running online. When you have like a timer going and someone's like internet drops out or they have like step away for a moment, that can be a little frustrating. I will note that for certain moments, like at the end of the day, you run the game how you want to. I would like pause the timer, like to give y'all more descriptions or to accomplish things. In the book, after every loop, you're supposed to gain 1 stress. I didn't institute that until like after like maybe like the 8th loop, because this is our session 1 of our Arkyvr campaign, and I didn't want y'all to perish. Steven, do we want to talk about this module through the lens of Arkyvr, or do we want to save that for the future?
Yeah.
So Arkyvr is you're essentially your documentary crew in space. You get a little shot list that you got to fill out, get done like for the company provide to them. This module is the peanut butter and jelly that goes with Arkyvr. You can use the shot list as like little hints of like what's going to happen, what needs to be looked for, and they just worked so well together in that regard.
You could use it as breadcrumbs, and you did a really good job with that in terms of Arkyvr. I don't see how this works outside of an Arkyvr setting. It was really conducive of that supplement because you're a doc crew trying to film what's going on here, and it is very easy to do that. It just makes sense for this module. I thought it was an Arkyvr module.
There you have it. The tone that is set up in Decagone, it just has that kind of Parks and Rec, The Office meets sci-fi type deal, so it meshes so well together. Other than that, I don't really have any other things I can say from like a GM experience. To summarize, it's easy, it's smooth, simple. I highly recommend running this for your group. What about you, Steven?
It was a very fun module to play as a player, and I think frustrations aside, it's very straightforward.
It would be very hard for you to get lost on what's going on in here. You get a ton of material. If you buy the digital version, I own this physically as well. It is just gorgeous to look at. Printing was done well. This will probably, it's too early to say that this is my favorite module of the year since we've only done like 3, but this is really good.
Only thing is, it might be difficult to run multiple times with the same people.
Oh, 100%. I don't think you could
That's
return.
the issue with the time loop.
Yeah. You could maybe make some tweaks to it, but yeah, definitely like a one and done. Listen, if you just replace maybe like 1 or 2 different people and you have some really good role players that are great about not metagaming, I think you could experience this in a positive light. All right, well, it's time for us to get Decagone here at We Took the Quest. I've been your co-quest master, Charles Woody.
I've been your co-quest master, Stephen Panella. Stay gone, you Decas.
Today, we'll be talking about Warped Beyond Recognition.
Do you think they'll recognize us after this warp, Charles?
I think so, Stephen. I think so. This was designed, written, and art and layout was by Quadra, edited by Fiona Maeve Geist. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Essentially, I'm going to read the module over here. The Tannhauser Group Special Research Division lost contact with RSV Fidanza, a science vessel and site of a top-secret project codenamed Brain Drain, and went missing while researchers experimented on 6 test subjects demonstrating possible psionic aptitude, exploring potential connections between psionics and esoteric hyperspace travel technology. That's the overview. We ran this as a part of our ongoing Arkyvr campaign. This was kind of done additionally through the lens of a documentary crew. I guess before we get into spoilers, can we talk about the art? You looked at the module, right, Stephen?
Yeah, the art, very nice. A little few and far between, but for the visuals in terms of each sort of monster and the maps, really nice. The art is very, very cool.
Gotcha. And when you say few and far between, you mean like there's not a whole lot of arts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as visuals go, a lot of modules have a fair amount of visual representations of things. There is only the maps and the monsters.
Yeah. But the friggin' art for the monsters in here, very dang good.
They're really good. And the map's very detailed, very well done, nice layout. I would have liked maybe a separate close-up map because they give us a map of the ship. But I think the zoom in for each level would have been nice. That were just, with no lines, no hints or anything like that on there. Like a sort of like a player map would have been kind of cool.
So what Steven is referring to is that the Fidanza is a 3-story spaceship. It's comprised of the upper deck, which is the command deck, the middle deck, which is the habitation deck, and then the lower deck, which is the research deck. All of these have warden facing maps, so all the details, basic dungeon layout, if you're reading a module as a warden / game master. But yeah, there is no player version. I'm curious, I'll have to look again at the files, but I think you're right. The closest thing that we get to a player handout is the schematic readout you can get from hacking one of the terminals.
And that in itself is a whole separate immersion. So that is probably exactly what I'm looking for, but it would have been nice to have a more visual representation of each level, how well the warden facing one is.
Yeah. How did it read to you, Stephen? Did you enjoy the layout?
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward. They give you like the full background of how you can fit this module into an ongoing campaign, as well as the dossier layouts for each of the monsters was really cool. It gives all the information, gives what you can learn. Like if the player hacked a terminal, you get little bits of information to uncover pieces of the mystery. It's pretty well laid out, honestly, and with a glossary.
I always love a glossary, but did you know, Stephen, that this is a hyperlinked PDF? So if you click on the little like orange highlighted numbers, it will take you to the exact thing that's connected to it. So for instance, yeah, it's super cool. If, let's say, one of the monsters is shown highlighted in the cells. So if you click on number 4, so if it's like monster number 4, it takes you to monster number 4's stat page. Yeah. It's the little things, make things a little easier. Quality of life stuff. The layout is great. The art is great. Something I'm trying to learn how to up my chops on is how we can talk about this without getting too spoilery. Can we talk about the vibes? I guess you can talk about the vibes without spoiling anything, right?
Yeah, I think in terms of vibes, it's sort of like a horror version of the X-Men. If Professor Xavier decided to adopt all these kids and then use their powers and sort of advance their psionic abilities to then sort of warp their minds for the worse.
Yeah, it's a great example of a company taking advantage of a situation to benefit themselves and their progress.
To the detriment of the human subjects.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's get into it. Let's get into the spoiler zone,
Yeah.
So if you are planning on playing this, stop now. Steven, I was being a player for this.
It was cool to uncover pieces of the mystery and figure out what exactly is going on here, who of the kids is the most stable, and then, of course, how to get off this ship as quick as possible. And I think through the lens of Arkyvr, the way you would approach things is very different than you would if you would have played it in a normal Mothership setting.
What was like the first clue that kind of like gave you the idea, like, oh, I know what's going on here?
When you're in the hangar room and you talk to the first child subject and he like kind of makes a comment about his obsession with the giant mech or the giant robot, and then there's nosebleeds or whatever. You're like, all right, well, I feel like we're going to see 10 more of these kinds of things. Chill on surface, and then kind of got a lot going on.
Is there any other telltale sign for a psionic ability person besides a nosebleed?
If they hold their hands up in front of them and they're like straining, that's another good one.
Yeah.
It's a nosebleed, and then as if you're lifting or holding back a giant force that's pushing against you.
Mm-hmm. Maybe like a popped blood vessel in their eye or something like that. Something that's a little more minuscule. But I feel like now, ever since Stranger Things comes out, if you're like, and there's a little bit of blood coming out of their nose, you're like,
well,
okay.
We know what this is.
Psionic ability.
Yeah.
Steve, what was your favorite part of this module as a player?
Seeing each of the kids and then wondering, all right, how can I get away from these guys? How can I figure out what they got going on, and how can I figure out how to get away without them probably killing me?
Did you have a favorite out of any of these 6 test subjects?
Jonesy Babbitt was a pretty interesting, although nothing really happened, but I feel like something could have really happened if we didn't play our cards right.
Yeah, so to give a little bit more context, Jonesy has this ability to change the reality around him. He kind of lives like in his own fantasy world. When you go into his room, you see a lot of like fantasy novels. And of course, I was like, oh, you see Lord of the Rings books in his rooms and things like that. The arts on it, like page 19, he has this super sick crown. Like this literally kind of like the top half of Sauron's helmet.
And almost the vibes of Sauron.
Yeah, you know what? A little bit. Yeah, I can see it. So I think now that we are in the spoiler zone, what's really happening here is like 6 kids have been abducted by this science agency, and they are testing their psionic abilities to see if it can improve hyperspace jump technology. Every time they do an experiment, they essentially put a kid in an isolation tank filled with biogel. I guess that the biogel helps them. Let's see, it's actually in the book here. Biogel has developed this antibacterial nutritive gel to preserve organs and prevent transplant rejection. Can't be used as emergency rations, but it's like eating vitamin flavored jello. I guess they keep them in the biogel to make sure that they don't explode or keeps like their organs in their body.
Right.
So they're in the tank, they do the hyperspace jump, and the isolation chamber is essentially connected to the jump drive in a way. And then something goes wrong with the kids. Like they have an adverse reaction.
Like every time they jump, or every time they experiment, something changes them.
Every time they experiment, yeah. So in the book on page 4, when it says, what happened aboard the ship, the science team were conducting experiments to induce or enhance psionic abilities in 6 teenage test subjects. They made a hyperspace jump for each subject after they were suspended in a tank of biogel. So they did the jump, and something bad happened to them each time, and it lists out each of the jumps and who was a part of each one.
Yeah, it's really neat how there was, I guess, depending on the MO of your group, there's really like a bunch of different ways it's going to cap. Like it's who do you save? Who can you save? What do you do with the ship? There's a lot of ways to go about winning this one. It gives a good amount of backstory to be able to just do as a one shot or really good, because we're practicing our long form campaign with Mothership, and it's a really good way to tie something in because it has a lot of background that they give, so you can integrate it into a campaign or do a one shot. It gives you enough history to fit a vibe.
Yeah, something that I read in the Warden's Manual or the Player's Guide, there's like the 3 S's of Mothership. So it's survive, solve. Oh, what's the third one?
Save?
Save. Yes. Survive, solve, save. And you literally get like 3 of those options in this module. So can you get out of the ship alive, without these kids tearing you apart? Can you figure out what happened? Can you save any of them? And you saved one of the kids.
Yeah.
I kind of want to talk about the kids specifically, one by one, but were there any other highlights or lowlights that you want to talk about from being a player in Warped Beyond Recognition?
This module is very rock and a hard place, so it's kind of difficult. I guess if you worked really, really hard, you could save them all and get them all out, but it's difficult to play a rational character, which is the kind of character I play, because you're trying to save everyone. You're trying to make sure your whole crew is safe. You're trying to figure out what's going on and then still get paid.
I feel you there. What's really funny is the way that I ran Warped Beyond Recognition. They're really supposed to be like a lot more aggressive to y'all, but I really just made one be super aggressive. Let's talk about that a little bit more. So when you get to the subject page, there's 6 subjects overall. We'll start with Evander. I think it's pronounced Buddha, but if not, forgive me, for I am just a man. On each of these, you have their stat blocks, the combat instinct, armor protection, how many wounds they can take. They also have their sanity/behavior. Then also you can find a data pad with additional notes on it. So for instance, when you first meet Evander, he starts at 1 sanity, last stand. And it says, attacks non-subjects on sight, shouts garbled military jargon acts like a crazed action hero making his last stand. I couldn't figure out another place for y'all to start this than the cargo bay, and that's where EB is. And I'm like, if you just get in here and this kid starts crushing y'all with this mech suit, that's going to be a tough time, right?
Yeah. I mean, is there a way to explain, because it's a table, their sanity is on a table. Is there a way to like reduce that? Or did they say it starts at sanity 1? I guess they're just talking. It didn't seem like there was a way to, in the module, to change their demeanor.
I didn't see one. Maybe it's going over my head. If you are a huge Warped Beyond Recognition fan and you see this, call us out in the comments so we can, here we go. Page 2. Each test subject has a sanity chart rated 0 to 5, detailing their starting sanity and corresponding behavior. Whenever they experience something that would trigger a PC sanity save, fear save or panic check, roll instinct. Failure equals -1 sanity. Players may role play attempts to improve a subject's sanity. You may require a roll for this. If the players use information gleaned from the subject's log, give them advantage or simply let them succeed. I didn't really mess with the sanity table too much because I'm the kind of warden/GM where if I kind of have the outline, I don't want to get bogged down in the details where it kind of stops the session. But that's really cool, though. As you increase, the higher they go, the less wild they are because they have more sanity. That makes sense. So like the 5 for Evander is seeks a real cause to die fighting for. So maybe like, hey, we should take down this evil corporation, this evil science corporation. Will you help us out, EB? And he says, yes. And then he helps you take care of all the baddies.
If we had known that sort of mechanic, then we would have probably stopped at each kid and then figured out a way to increase their sanity to then get them to think a little rational, and we could have saved a lot more.
Yeah. So that's Evander Buda. My favorite, next up, subject to Miriam Rios. She is this nightmarish, I feel so bad for her, nightmarish beast that is comprised of a whole bunch of different limbs. As the player characters explore the RSV Fidanza, you see that there are a lot of dead NPCs and their arms are ripped clean off. What were you thinking before you found out like what Miriam was? What did you think about the severed arm situation?
I had no clue. I'm like, all right, well, there's probably just another alien or another monster that got on the ship.
I think that's maybe like the one drawback for Mothership or being like an experienced player. Where's the alien? Where's the monster causing all these issues? Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that everyone was like, oh, their arms are severed.
It's like, well, here's another one. More dead people. If we had stuck to that mechanic, it would have been interesting to talk Miriam down.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how you would.
By getting her information from her dossier and then using it against her, but then making that roll. Or you just succeed if you have the information on them. I could see you letting that slide for people who are at like a 3 or a 4 sanity. Since she starts at 0, I think that a roll definitely would have been required if we brought up something about her dossier or whatever. Like just putting a roll to it would be the way to do it.
Yeah, Miriam's sanity starts at 0 and it's titled Stalker. Hunts, kills, and rips the arms off any non-test subject. Completely fixated on self-preservation and controlling her environment. Unable to speak. So you're already starting off at a really, really tough place with Miriam.
Yeah, sure, but 5, she speaks. So the way to handle it would have been put a roll to it. Probably a disadvantage, honestly. It's not impossible. If she was standing in the hole and not moving, maybe just a straight roll. She's actively attacking us, maybe disadvantage. It could have been an interesting way to deal with Miriam as basically the monster instead of just being forced to kill her.
Every nice person who encounters like a beastly monster just trying to like talk sweetingly to them and remind them that they're a human.
Because the hope is there because she's got her head.
Very
That's
true.
what the hope is. If it was just an amalgamation of arms and legs, no way.
That's a very good point. That's Miriam. Next, we got, in my opinion, potentially the most pompous of the test subjects. We have Billy Way. Billy uses his psionic powers to essentially mind control people. So he puppeteers 2 of the military officers that have been assigned to the ship and has them recite Hamlet to one another in front of him.
Billy was a trip. I mean, we basically just kept him at sanity 1. It was an interesting way to sort of play along and get out because the whole vibe was we had to interview each kid. So it was just difficult to get away, especially when they think they have their clutches in us.
Doing this through Arkyvr, once again, like gives you the opportunity to kind of dig in more to the test subjects, I would argue, compared to just running this as normal. Did the Hamlet reciting tickle any fancy for you? You were just like, oh, okay.
It was eerie as heck, especially when they just like turned to us, forcing a smile. I was like, okay, so we got to get it here as quick as possible before we start getting controlled.
Yeah. He's convinced everyone is a Philistine, attempts to dominate everyone to perform in the rehearsals for him, for his entertainment.
And then kills resistors.
Next up, we got Jonesy Babbitt. We talked about Jonesy a little bit earlier, so we talked about how he can change the area around him. He starts off at number 2. I kind of tweaked his interactions with y'all just a little bit. He's supposed to be agoraphobic, tries to frighten strangers so they leave him alone. The PC's earn his trust. He still manipulates their perceptions favorably towards him. It keeps them off balance. I had it to where he was scared of Dr. No. Dr. No is the lead scientist on the RSV who's doing the experiments on these kids. I made her this opposing kingdom that she reigned across from him. And then y'all smartly were like, well, we'll pledge our allegiance to you, King Babbitt, and we'll defeat Dr. No type deal.
One of the other players was able to figure out pretty quickly to kind of play along, which was the answer to most of dealing with the kids. Live in their reality for a second and get on their good side.
I'll play your little game, Jones.
Yeah.
We're all in the same kingdom. Please don't tear me apart.
Please, God, don't kill me. You're the king or whatever.
Next up, we have Yu Yin, who is the cover of Warped Beyond Recognition. She is in a constant state of warp, so her body is realigning itself over and over again. Yu Yin's constantly warping body floats in the isolation chamber, repeatedly turning itself inside out in a whirlwind of flesh.
Yeah, that was terrifying to see, terrifying to potentially think about living in that situation. Yu Yin was a soldier, one of the most sane.
Yes. She starts off Insanity 2, trying to hold herself together, attempts to communicate with and approach people without realizing the damage this does. If in hyperspace, she may try to prevent the ship from leaving. She was really chill. She was open to helping y'all get off the ship and defeating Miriam.
I knew when we met you, I was like, okay, this is one that we can probably save if we get the opportunity to.
Rounding us out, Sonia Ellison. So when you meet Sonia, she floats in the isolation tank on the bridge, controlling the ship. The photo, she is like, her lower torso and down is fused into a whole bunch of digital displays that's connected to the ship.
Just one with the computer, one with the ship.
Just me on my phone.
Yeah, that's basically, yep. Despite her starting at sanity level 4, all of her sanity levels are kind of bad, except 5.
She's very upset. She doesn't like Dr. No. There's a really cool excerpt that you can read off to the players about chat interaction where she locks Dr. No in her quarters, basically suffocating her. She's doing like, oh, I'm trying to protect you from Miriam. She really wants everyone to be a part of her crew since she's like the ship now. And I had it to where like she wanted to hyperspace jump to her home planet. When you get on the ship, the hyperjump drive is fried. So she's really warm, sent an invitation out to the players. Hey, fix the jump drive for me, be part of my crew, and I'll get you out of here.
What was her original motivation?
Her original motivation, let's see. As the most lucid test subject, she may propose PC's help or become her new crew. She's unwilling to relinquish control when making hyperspace jumps. As an organic being, hyperspace without cryo is emotionally traumatizing.
What you added was probably really good for the storytelling point of view because she's the most sane. But in my perspective, at least, Yuyin was one that was most willing to help us, the one we should have prioritized the most. I was like, oh, Sonia's gone. She's lost cause.
Yeah, she's too far gone in her situation. She's kind of using y'all as pawns, but she sees you as being part of the same team, quote unquote. But she is kind of a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, that's the vibe.
Yeah, so that's the main subjects. This is essentially a ship dungeon with these really sick test subjects. I will say overall, running this as a warden, super chill. I didn't feel overwhelmed. I really loved the hyperlinking in the PDF, so I needed to jump to something. That was pretty fantastic. I could read the maps very easily. The descriptions gave me enough to work on and build upon things. This was super easy to run.
Yeah, it seems very warden friendly. As long as you have your role-playing shops, they give you everything you need. Map of the ship, basic idea of survive, save, and solve. Then all these very colorful, not even monsters yet, unless you do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing. Each meeting with the subjects was like its own different puzzle to figure out how to navigate.
A very well-crafted module. So in addition to this semi-dungeon crawl, there's also the ability for player characters to gain psionic abilities. When you get into the backside of this book, you can build a psionic ability for one of your characters. One of our friends in this campaign, Skylar, she now has the machinery ability where she can control machines, which is pretty sick. And they give you a pretty in-depth step-by-step process on how to use it, what's kind of the flow chart to go down when a player wants to use their ability, what's the drawbacks, what's the benefits, which I think is awesome. Just adding like a little sprinkle onto the base mechanics of the game. Oh yeah, by the way, you can be a friggin' psionic.
Yeah. If you're looking to do a longer form campaign, you could probably start with this one, find a way to have all your players get psionic abilities, and then the following modules would be very interesting.
Steven, it's funny that you bring that up because one of the angles, it says, oh, how did the players get here? Y'all could be other test subjects, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you wake up on the ship and, you're the next round. Maybe they're testing on adults based off of what they saw from the teenagers.
See, that's cool. A very versatile module.
Yeah, and something that I love. I sometimes struggle when people are like, what's in the room? Or like, oh, like what's on the body? The very last page of the book just gives you a D100 table of random things that could be found on the body of someone or in the room. I think our favorite was a Bible with sexy pinup of Jesus.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. Pouch of biogel, toothbrush with a sharpened handle. Oh, we didn't find that one. So that's super helpful. Find items that would make sense that show up on the ship. Like I said earlier, this is good. I would recommend any game master run this. I think any player would enjoy playing this. Steven, do you have any other additional thoughts on Work Beyond Recognition?
Not too much. I mean, like you said, it's a really good Warden module. It's a really good player module. Tons of different ways to go about solving this one. I think it's just, it invites a lot and it gives you a lot to work with. And you can make a pretty solid story from it.
And then one thing I wanted to add on is I haven't seen a ton of coverage of this module on YouTube or on the web. On Quinn's Quest, it does get a small shout out, and that's what piqued my interest because of Quinn's is recommending it. I'm definitely going to check it out. But other than that, on the Mothership Reddit, every now and then I see when people are like, hey, like what's a module I can run? I'll see them shout out Work Beyond Recognition, but not a whole lot of actual plays. I've just seen now that on like the actual Tuesday night games, so the creators of Mothership, they have an actual play of Work Beyond Recognition. So maybe check that out. Also, there is a little preview trailer for the module that seems really cool by Paradiso. That's on YouTube, so I highly recommend that. So this is definitely a little hidden gem. Well, all right, that'll do it for us on another side quest episode of We Took the Quest. Steven, any final thoughts? Anything before we get out of here?
Make sure you don't get into any tubes with goo in it.
Evade the tubes of goo. I couldn't agree more. I've been your co-quest master, Charles Woody.
And I have been your co-quest master, Stephen Pinella.
Keep questing. And this is the thrilling conclusion of our Mothership side quest episode. We'll be talking about Mothership Arkyvr by Alewood Games.
Arkyvr? I hardly knew her.
Pretty good. I was also going to ask you, do you think there was a moment where they considered calling this Mothership MacGyver?
No. I don't think once.
Well, there you have it. We got to the bottom of it here. So for those of you that don't know what Arkyvr is, let me read you the module overview. Equipped with only their camera gear, Arkyvers will attempt to document life in space and expose corporate client atrocities while surviving the void's unspeakable horrors. Players will make ends meet through corporate media contracts, but with each assignment, they will also find horrible truths hidden just under the surface of their mission. If the Arkyvr crew survives their film shoot, they must then decide how to distribute their footage. This was designed by Roderick Maxino. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. Edited by Samantha Lee. Art by Wolf for Deer Colony, Logan Espartero, and Roderick himself.
Essentially, your documentary crew from The Office meets Alien.
But it's maybe not as funny.
Right. Well, depends.
I did remember your characters laughing once throughout the whole process.
Mostly screaming for sure. Yeah. Maybe once. Maybe a chuckle.
Just a little bit when everything's so crazy. The only response is just to laugh.
Right, exactly.
So we played Arkyvr for 9 sessions with our friends Skylar and Cody. I GM'd this bad boy. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Arkyvr before we get into the art and the layout. So like Steven said, Arkyvr, you play documentary crew in the Mothership world. We did it from like a Civil War on the front lines. Y'all were like really filming stuff. You weren't filming like a movie or anything like that. It was more like, here's what's really happening in the galaxy.
Right. It was kind of like your run and gun guerrilla journalism out in the field, capturing events across the galaxy and whatnot.
And the main differences between Arkyvr and Mothership base game mechanically is Arkyvr has 4 distinctive classes that you can play. You have the camera operator, the sound recordist, the producer, and the utility technician. Steven, you played the producer in this one, right?
I did. I played the producer, and the kind of role of the producer is to have the crew work together to capture the shot. And as long as the crew works together on something, the producer excels. Very, very interesting kind of take on that role, gamified. I think they did a really good job of it.
Yes, and then also Steven will be able to speak to some of the similarities and things that they got right from working in the film industry, because Steven has some of that experience.
I do.
So you have those 4 distinctive classes, and the main game flow is you're going to get a shot list from a company or a contact that you're looking for. They're looking for X amount of specific shots. So they'll give you a description like, hey, interview lead scientist X, get B-roll footage of XX, experiment. And then once you have the footage, you will send it off and it will be graded by the company, and you will be rewarded based off of the company's review of your production.
Yeah, kind of a interesting way to give the players not only a general like, go to this derelict ship and find an alien and report back any survivors. There's more of like there's always an objective hanging over your head. Like, also, we gotta get this shot of this person or this kind of this action shot. It adds a sense of always, what are we missing? How can we be doing something while doing, getting scared on this ship? It was always at the back of your mind.
And something that I love from a warden perspective, it's just nice having you all know what you need to do as opposed to like a slow reveal and slowly putting the pieces together. I always enjoyed saying like, hey, here are the X things that you need. Let's go out and do it. When you and I co-DM'd a D&D campaign together, one of my favorite things was we had like the little quests, and it was like 3 things to do. So here's what success is, so on and so forth. So it really makes it clear, and I think it helps improve player urgency because you know the exact things you need to do.
Right, and it also helps with if there's any sort of lull or a break and it's a little too long, the producer or someone can always be like, what's the next shot? Or what do we have left to do? What could we do to get the next shot? That's a very cool built-in way to push the story forward.
Agreed. So you have the 4 distinctive classes, you have the game flow. The last thing that is a little bit different than base Mothership is the recording check. So there is a process where you need to get set up. You got to make sure you establish the shots, and then let me read step by step what the exact steps are for shooting. So you're going to set the scene, you're going to do a capture check or assist with the capture, and then you'll mark and roll to see if it's a success or not, and then you'll log it on the shot list.
And it takes into account if you got sound, and if you got multiple shots within the one take, that's a huge deal. So it's a very interesting way of gamifying kind of like the film industry stuff.
And there were a few moments throughout the campaign where you're like, oh yeah, like this is a thing that occurs in like current life film industry.
Right, like on the equipment list that Arkyvr provides, there's a slew of different items you can purchase, or equipment rather. And there's one thing that tickled me. It's called a C47 for 1 credit. A C47 paperclip, or like a little clothespin. That's all it is. So clothespins are huge in the industry for helping set up, gels on lights, change the colors and whatnot. C47s are important, so I think that's why they give you an important name such as C47, but it's just a clothespin.
That's so funny. I did listen to a partial interview with the designer that I will be hyperlinking in the description. It's on this podcast called Talk at the Table. And apparently he consulted some of his friends in the film industry to really get that pure view of what it's like in the day-to-day of being a film producer, a camera artist, so on and so forth.
Yeah, honestly, I think they kind of nailed it. They nailed the vibe. If you take this to the table with some friends who are in the industry, it'll excel. And then you put in the backdrop of a horror space theme, and the possibilities are really endless, and it's really cool. I think it does a very good job of capturing the industry life.
So that's the overview for Mothership Arkyvr. I'll probably start just calling it Arkyvr for short. Let's talk about the art and the layout. I own this both physically and digitally. The physical copy is a soft cover book coming in at about 67 pages. The color black is used really well. It's the main colors you're going to see are the color black, neon pink, kind of lightish blue. Everything reads really good. What do you think about the art in this, Stephen?
It's simplistic to the degree of easy to read, like you mentioned. It's very example showing, like, it's almost like stick figures that they show, and it's very streamlined, and it helps capture that vibe of film industry kind of, like, example giving and step-by-step process.
It's very babies first. Shooting a film, there are two pages that I'd really like to specifically call out if you own this or bought this digitally. Page 16, so it shows the filming process and it's got the stick figures. So, first one, pre production, followed by production, like a dude holding a camera. Step 3, post production. Pretty straightforward, seems pretty safe to me. And then on page 21, it shows the capture sequence. So, it's set
Yeah.
the scene, and they're like, oh, this guy's getting possessed. You should go over there and like kick him. And then they set the assist capture, shows the guy getting kicked, mark and roll. A demon comes out, and then log on shot list. You see the guy who kicked the demon get eaten. It's really adorable artwork, and it works so well.
It is very, very comedic in a simple way that really does it for you.
So that's the art. Really like the art. Thumbs up from me and Steven all around. As far as the layout goes, like Steven said, it is pretty dang streamlined. There's a nice table of contents, which I always like, so you know exactly where to go if you're looking for specific parts of the book. One small inconsistency that kind of messed with us a little bit during character creation process was the bonuses for stats and saves for the characters. So, for instance, the stat bonus for a camera operator is +5 intellect, +5 strength. But then for a producer, they get +10% stat bonus to speed, +20% sanity. And we were like, well, is it a +10? Is it a +20? I
Yeah.
remember us stopping to talk about this for at least like 9 minutes,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what to do there.
But that could be a design mishap or something that was not communicated correctly through creation of this and then the base game. So there could be a number of things. Maybe it was just an oversight, honestly.
Yeah, or it could be total incompetence on my part. You know, that's also a huge potential factor. But other than that, very straightforward, easy to read. There are specific Arkyvr skills in this book, which is really neat. Something that I loved from a warden perspective is that on the Mothership app, you can add in custom skills. So it's really easy just to continue to run with the base Mothership app and then just add in the custom Arkyvr skills. And then you'll have your camera operator there, your producer right there on the sheet. You don't have to really do any extra legwork.
Yeah, that helped a lot. And each of the different classes you can choose from all come with signature equipment that each of those people have. Like, for example, the producer has a portable computer, the tech had the boots, the mag boots, and you can also input that information on the app as well.
Speaking of those boots, in addition to the book that I got, I also got little equipment cards that came with this game. So each character has like a signature piece of equipment that they use. So the camera operator has the camera, the producer has, was it like a playback monitor, right, Steven?
Yeah.
Playback monitor, sound recordist has a little lav mic, and then the utility technician has these exogreave boots that
Yeah.
our friend Cody got so much mileage and value out of.
Yeah. What's cool is, for example, with like the camera operator, there were bonuses that you got as the camera operator if you saw the monster or alien through the camera as you were filming. You would have advantage on the fear save. You know, like it was really cool. And the same thing with the sound recording. If you were capturing sound of someone screaming as they got eaten alive by an alien, it was with advantage.
They do an incredible job of making each character class distinct, and those are really great examples that you gave, Stephen. So overall, the layout is good, the art is good. This is the longest campaign that we ran for Mothership. We played 9 sessions, like I said earlier. Steven, how was playing Arkyvr in this semi-long form instance?
It was really cool because with like we were really interested in playing a long form Mothership game, and Arkyvr really invites that. To do a whole shot list and film all the shots and edit everything together, like there's mechanics for all that. So to do that and then get paid and then get to use that money later, like it was really cool. Where I don't think Arkyvr is a one and done. Like it can be, but it feels more rewarding and more worth it if you're doing a longer form campaign, because then you can see that money grow and do stuff with it. Go if you want to go on shore leave or what have you. So I think Arkyvr really, really excels in that long form campaign because you get to edit together things and really use the mechanics. And I think it was really fun. It was a really good time.
This was the first time that I got to see y'all earn money and then spend the money. Like money was a more valuable resource, like outside of bribes. Like y'all purchased equipment, had the additional bribes as well, but it was nice to see credits actually used in the game. And then also we did shore leave, I think 2 or 3 times, which we didn't for the other ones that we did. It was always like a self-contained adventure, so we never really had a use for shore leave. So it was cool to see those mechanic muscles flexed in Arkyvr for Mothership.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other highlights that you had from like the player experience, Steven? Any like favorite moments, or was there anything specific like that you didn't like? Did you have any criticisms, or like, oh, Arkyvr kind of stumbles here a little bit?
In terms of criticisms, kind of yes and no. In terms of, I don't know if like Arkyvr is designed really well, but the thing is, I don't know if it vibes extremely well with Mothership, because in Mothership you're very squishy and you're very like gonna die and you're looking for the monster and all that stuff. With Arkyvr, you're kind of just like regular people and you don't have combat skills. Even the base Mothership game is like, don't fight, always run. Fighting is the last resort. But at least you have the combat skill. At least you have ways to defend yourself. But with Arkyvr, you shouldn't be fighting monsters. Just capturing on the film. So it's kind of hard to survive long enough unless you are very far away from the alien and not engaged ever. Arkyvr is really good as a game. I just don't know if Mothership was the best system for this kind of thing, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Maybe something that could fix it would be having like a Marine, someone play a base Mothership character as opposed to every single person being part of the Arkyvr crew.
Which, in that sense, having each person be part of an Arkyvr crew, it does have that level of, don't fight things. You should just be filming things. There's no reason you should be fighting things. That also adds a cool layer. Or just have some of the crew member just secretly build fully into combat stuff. You could have the utility tech just be really skilled with guns and not actually be skilled with utility stuff, because then that's just like funny. But
yeah, that is something that the book says. Like you aren't limited to the skills in here. Like if you wanted to mix and match, that's totally an option. So yeah, like you said, maybe have that utility tech person really just like, hey, we really need more of a fighter. Maybe only have like the lower level skills for Arkyvr stuff, but you're more concentrated, you're more focused skills beyond combat stuff from the base game.
For my character, my producer, my skills were computers, directing, linguistics, networking, and public relations. I don't know if I ever used public relations and networking more than once or twice, because it's hard to public relate to a giant monster that's attacking us down a hallway. I had 0 combat ability. Like my combat was a 36, so I was never going to be fighting ever, and I tried to avoid it at all costs.
Yeah, and in the frame that we played, I didn't unfortunately put you in enough positions where you could use those skills. Also, I had no idea you had linguistics. I don't think linguistics was used once.
No, never. Like if maybe, because there was a part of Arkyvr that we didn't really get into, which was like the recovery, the data recovery. That's something we kind of didn't do, and it seemed like it was not a big part, but like a prominent talked about thing. And maybe linguistics would have helped with that, deciphering another language. I think maybe that's what where it would have come in relation. But I think I only picked up linguistics because it was necessary on the way to network or public relations. But like I said, as Arkyvr offers these other skills, you don't have to take them. Just kind of be communicative with the warden and be like, "Hey, this is what I got." Just to let you know.
100%. And maybe next time when it's not so like frontline coverage, I could see you using networking or public relations to find like the best suitor to like to hawk your footage to. You know, like you only had like the one contact for your footage submissions. So
Right.
something for future wardens who are thinking about Arkyvr in the future, maybe have multiple suitors who are interested in the footage that your PCs collect.
Yeah, or as a producer, usually you are in contact with the locations for the places you're filming in, a point of contact, or there are some extras that are standing in the way. That's where public relations comes in. Trying to make sure your crew is set up for a good shot, so you, as the producer, get in contact with the right people. So having points of contact to maybe you got to convince the janitor to let you into a hallway where you shouldn't be, stuff like that. As the producer, it looks like there is a lot more charismatic skills involved, is what they seem to excel in. That might be another thing. Have more people involved for the characters to interact with.
Yeah, I think so. Worthy opportunity. Any other highlights from playing in the session, Stephen, before we talk about the warden side of things?
In terms of highlights, nothing. No, not really.
Did you have fun?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Good, good. All right, from the warden side, I already talked about this earlier, just how easily this pops into the Mothership app. I highly recommend the Mothership app because you can take those Arkyvr skills and put them in your character sheet without having to have a completely separate character sheet from the app. This source book, this /module, is so easily put into other modules. It is fantastic. So I literally ran 3 modules. I ran Decagone, I ran Warp Beyond Recognition, and A Pound of Flesh, almost word by word, and just I would highlight things that you would need to do in those modules through the lens of Arkyvr, which was really cool. There really isn't a whole lot of extra legwork on the warden side if you want to hack a module, as they say in the Arkyvr book. It worked so well. And I think the best compliment, if we already didn't have this earlier in the Decagone section of the side quest, I loved when you were like, oh, I thought Decagone was an Arkyvr specific module.
Yeah, like I said, that's a testament to how easy you can just plug it in to Arkyvr or vice versa. Because you can hide the objectives of getting through the story of any of these zines and through the shot list. Have us poke around floor 2 and talk to this scientist, and then it'll unveil the story in a way. It's just it really works together with the Mothership zines very nicely.
Another thing that I really enjoyed was the post-production section. So as the warden, you play the film entity that is reviewing the shots from the crew. And it's a D100 roll, and you get a lot of bonuses from the crew side if you have like specific skills, or if it matches the specific thing that you're looking for, or if you had audio from the shot. I really liked the variability on how much y'all would get paid. So the first time y'all were super successful, y'all got paid out like a huge amount. Like the rolls were just super high, which y'all got. And then the second time, Work Beyond Recognition, y'all went through so much physically and mentally on that. And the pay was like C-. And you were so upset about that.
Yeah, because most of that adventure, I was like, let's just go. We got to get out of here. Any rational person would just leave the situation, especially if we can.
And that probably speaks to the film industry, because like I'm sure there's someone that worked their tail off on the Borderlands movie, and then like that movie, not great, wasn't received well, and it's like, dang, I gave everything on that film, and
Yeah.
I don't really have much to show for it.
Yeah.
So those are the biggest positives that I have to say. This is super easy to run from a warden perspective. This is super easy to throw into other modules. Like the game pretty much writes itself for you, which is fantastic. The only struggles that I had was trying to come up with challenging situations for y'all to get your shots. Like I wanted to find ways to be like, oh man, if you recorded audio right now, it's going to be really tough. Or like, hey, if you have the light bulb on your camera, it's going to attract the monster. Because overall, like y'all maybe failed 2, maybe 3 capture checks in the whole campaign.
Right, because what does the capture check entail? What is necessary to do it again?
When performing a capture check, you are going to mark off a memory slot on the shot list sheet. Then you're going to roll intellect plus cinematography plus capture assists. Let's say you have like a 40 intellect, like you're a super smart dude. If you have a utility technician in there, he gives you a plus 20 out of the gate, so 60. Are you using an Arkyvr skill that's applicable to the capture check? That's another plus 10. And then it literally just says anything else plus 5. So if there's some sort of way you can finagle and argue that something you're doing offers that bonus, you're getting a plus friggin' 35 out of the gate.
Yeah, and with my character, my intellect was 50. 85 is my number for the capture check. It's not impossible to fail, but it's pretty hard. You're in the industry, it's part of it. You should be getting these shots. If that seems like a crazy number for future wardens of Arkyvr, throw in more possible hiccups, because although it's limited on how many shots the camera person has, it's not like impossible. It's a setback. It's not like a end all be all. They lost that shot. We can't do it.
Yeah. If anything, find a way to get rid of that pesky utility technician, that plus 20, like find a way to maybe get them in another room, or really just think about whatever the shot list is on the warden side. This may put a little extra legwork on your room. Think about like, all right, how easy does a visual aspect come in here, or how easy it is to record sound? Think about like, all right, what could mess up? What are those hiccups that I can plant? And I believe there are some minor examples of hiccups that you can throw in to make things a little harder. But to me, it wasn't easily enough where I can like, all right, I can come up with this on the spot as far as a hurdle that would hurt y'all. So that's the only like real gripe. I just wanted the capture checks to be a little more challenging, so it felt even better when you got the shots. A nice balance mechanic is if there is a high roll on the post-production check, that's where the balance is. Like, okay, maybe you did get the shot, but if the post-production set fails, they're not going to get paid as much. There's a little bit of balance there, but that's the biggest gripe that I have with Arkyvr personally.
Yeah, maybe make some shots appealing in terms of make it dangerous to get multiple shots in one. Throw in like things like that where sure you could just make it risky and you can get like 2 or 3 shots and make it really risky.
Some things to consider, but overall, from a warden perspective, you can run this. If you are even like, honestly, if you're a newbie who's playing TTRPGs for the first time, I think this is really straightforward. This is an extra layer of sprinkles that you can throw in on Mothership. If you're super interested in Mothership and maybe it's your first time running it, you can do this. Like you can hop on the bike without the training wheels here and you'll be just fine.
Straightforward and detailed.
With all that in mind, do I think you should bring this to the table? It's a resounding yes. This is, I think, honestly, a must buy. If you're going to play Mothership, I think you should pick up Arkyvr as well. Steven, what do you think?
I agree. This is a very solid supplement to Mothership, and it adds a really interesting layer to the gameplay. I'd be interested to see kind of maybe doing a movie instead of like a documentary crew. That would be crazy.
Yeah, because I think we talked about this in the just Mothership episode of We Took the Quest. Imagine doing this from like a franchise perspective. So like you shoot the first movie, it's a massive success. Then you're on to the sequel. Maybe there are some like challenges there, and like, and can you get over the hump from like the third movie? Can you make the third movie a success? I think that would be a super fun frame that you could run for Arkyvr in the future.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Well, dang, I think there's nothing else to say. This is awesome. Definitely play it. Is there anything else? Any other passing thoughts you have on Arkyvr, Steven?
Lights, camera, Arkyvr.
And you've said it all. That'll do it for us here at We Took the Quest. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We will have future side quests for other games that we're reviewing this season for We Took the Quest, so keep an eye out on that. If there's a game that really speaks to you, there may be a side quest episode that covers modules or other additional thoughts on that game that we are playing. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next quest. Bye!